Hi, this is Ketter with a Battleshopper breakdown, bringing you match 2 of our Redlings series, and we won the roll. All right, we are not playing a mirror this round, so let's see if we can do something a little different. All right, I like this hand. So we get to play, looks like Seeker on 1 and a Speeded Crusader on 3. Yep, we will hold on to this one. Definitely nothing, too impressive though. This is definitely the pretty standard, look at my aggressive Ruby Blood deck. Draw. Would expect our opponent is, some sort of mid-range strategy, maybe a control deck. Renner is not a super common champion to be selected, but definitely has a lot of upside to him. Worst case, we get cheap shotted here. Hoping our opponent is a sporting type. Oh, yeah. So I think with the way this matchup is probably going to play out, I am just going to play out another Death Seeker, and we're just gonna keep putting creatures into play and pressure. If given the chance, I think we'll Motor Trike next turn. But we'll see if our opponent taps out. We'll throw it on the Underworld. So this is definitely, I think, the aggro versus what maybe our opponent's on control. Anyway, that's the case. We'll get to showcase one of the the big reasons selecting aggro decks generally has upside. Okay, not a very traditional card in the Butcher there, but I respect it out of our opponent. It answers. I mean, it answers a lot of creatures in the format right now. So I can't be too critical of it. All right. I'm going to fire off the Motor Trike here. If our opponent wants to untap and Hero Fall, it's a little less impactful or a little less damaging to us. We are going to activate the Redlings as well to keep getting these Lasgar's attacks in, and since there's no blockers, it is a pretty good 7 damage attack. Okay, opponent is at 15. 11. We do have our opponent dead next turn if they don't have anything, but I don't think that's going to be the case. OP seems to have a pretty cohesive strategy. Yeah, there's that Hero Fall. Get our one other Motor Trike driver. And now we're going to untap into another. Great. So I'm not going to play out my other shard here. And the reasoning there is if our opponent wants to, well, I have to consider if I want to play a shard here. I'm worried about a discard effect, but if our opponent has a discard effect, like the ones that are currently played are like Smoke Claw Rakers, they could Blood Favor to make us discard at random. I'm also not going to be able to hit my Slag Pop Power next turn. It's probably going to be the turn after. Okay. I am going to play the Ruby Shard here, after a little consideration. I do not feel like my opponent has a lot of sequences of discard effects, discard 2 effects at the 4 mana cost, and I think we'll be able to play our Vengeance next turn such that we can not get forced to have that discarded. Our opponent now is probably trying to figure out if they have to play a creature or if they have to kill the Crusader, giving us 2 cards immediately. It's a really interesting thing here with Hero Fall in the format. Okay. Do you wait for the draw step? And all those different elements. So we can put our opponent to 7 and basically kill them. Wow. That coin draw was actually perfect. This is exactly lethal. Ha! That's fun. Alright, well, we'll discard this, draw a card. The 1 of coin in the list, well, that does it as well. Alright. I want to... No. It does need to be with the Crusader. And the reason you want it to be with the Crusader, the opponent does have mana up for Cheap Shot. With this coming into play, we will get to Lasgar's them for their remaining life points no matter what. But it was kind of cool that we were going to have the coin sequence to make a Dreadling to give us the extra damage we needed to be able to Lasgar's them. So opponent showed us 3 removal spells. That makes me think that we are going to be having to, you know, grind them out. I do not wish to have these cremates. I'm going to bring in the 4th Lasgars. Okay, so I wonder if our main deck configuration is where we're supposed to leave it. I'm also thinking there's a possibility that our opponent is going to access some vampires. So like Vampire Prince and Vampire Princess are things to consider. And the specific ones, I think that means we want deeds for their creatures. We don't know if they have them, but we're kind of, you know, projecting that they will. And then we'll bring in 1 Casualty of War. And the reason it's only 1, or, you know, we're unsure, is if it's a Bride deck, we definitely want these gruesome deeds. The Casualty of War should help us try to pick off a possible Vampire Prince or Vampire Princess or a Vampire Queen. All of those are possibilities to be casualtied. That might be a little aggressive, and maybe we're supposed to just go with the riposte, but we're making some guesses here. Yeah, I'm gonna bring in the Casualty of War. I'm most concerned about our opponent having a good, you know, vampire draw. That seems the hardest for this deck to deal with. I feel like we're pretty good against the removal based, you know, kill your creature, kill your creature, kill your creature, over and over again. It's just when they can take one of those turns off to play a threat, and then every turn becomes, you know, deal me 2, they gain 2, and kill one of your creatures. Near impossible to race that. Let's see from here. All right, big advantage of this Redling decks, by the way, for those that are looking for something on the ladder. Games are quick. You can get through a lot of games pretty quickly with, you know, not too much struggle, and I like that. All right. So it's kind of a loose one if our opponent has the removal spell for the Death Keeper, so I am going to replace it. This looks much better. So we can go 2 into 3. We'll probably get a Ruby on the 1, you know, off the Crimson Slayer, since we want to get a charge type that we don't have. Yeah, something to keep in mind, you know, against these blood-based strategies. Remember, every mulligan sets you up for a turn 1 discard that puts you down, you know, a Nether card. And that's definitely something you need to be careful of. Alrighty, so we go Blood Shard. And now we can go Lackey Underworld. I've been told that is the beesest of the kneesed. Crimson Slayer is definitely an interesting one. It is a Redling specific role player. I can't really imagine this one getting, you know, too much play outside of a deck like Redlings. It's not that impressive. Wonderful. The second black one, the second Blood Shard is off of a cycling land. Love the Necropolis coins in this deck. So I expect an end of turn removal spell from our opponent. And I think it's really interesting playing the 1-for-1 removal decks when one of the better cards in the format is a Deathcry draw 2, lose 2. So they spent a removal spell and you went up 2 cards from that. That feels like a really that's a really tough position to fight from. Yep, there's one of the lifelinkers we were worried about. This one cannot be casualtied, but it can be gruesome deeded. The deeds are quite gruesome. All right. So the question is here, and the answer is yes, but if this flips, it becomes that. Huh. It's definitely a tough one to answer. The assumption is our opponent will have more removal. So yeah, let's get our Kraken now. We want to get that. This is going to be our best way to kill this creature. Is this Lasgar's Vengeance, and then if we're lucky enough, we'll untap into a Lackey plus Slagpot activation, which would be really nice. But I don't expect to untap with this card. This seems like a fantastic card for taking a turn off. Probably a lot more budget friendly than something like Vampire Princess. Both die to Strangle. This one does not die to Casualty of War though. Interesting. Okay, so we're definitely going to be pushing for this Lasgar's to try to take over. If our opponent is particularly cooperative, there you go. Yeah, we're going to just be trying to position for this to go off. So what I'm considering here is if I want to activate this for one, and I think the answer is no, where I activate it next turn and it definitely goes off. Yeah, that seems much better. So we'll go Gravengeist. We're going to attack with the Underworld Crusader first. Yeah, and we have to do this to try to prevent our opponent from getting a flip on. It's a really interesting block. I don't know if I agree with it out of our opponent there, but so I'm actually going to scrounge 2 now, and then interesting. So I could have decided to scrounge 2 after, or sorry, played the Gravengeist, declined, and then scrounged here and had 2 3/3s and a 6/6. I think that was actually better, and that was a mistake on my part because these would be a pair of 3/3s here. So learned on that there with the Gravengeist. Whew. So definitely a powerful card. The thought behind getting the 3/3 Gravengeist for those that were interested is that this won't die to Cheap Shot. Now it still dies to another removal spell, but my thought was try to set one up to not die to it. But the realization is by making this a 6/6, it just starts attacking again every turn, and it's definitely where we want to be. We also get to mess with this next turn. We won't get to scrounge on it, but I like where we're sitting. So to prevent this hero fall from happening, we're gonna sack this because we can still get this trade in if our opponent wants to give us that, which is, I don't think they will. I think that's what they're trying to position around. Don't you do it. I will block so fast your head might spin. Okay. So I can attack with everything here. I think I want to. Yeah. Yep. So there was the thought there that maybe I don't attack with the Geist, but I'm going to race my opponent, and this Crucibleborn is not going to be bigger than a 3/3. We get our sacrifice in here because it's just some good fun, and now we get to have a little bit of Kabbalist fun come next turn. I'm not gonna play this. I could play it, and that would... Nope, we're going to get that charge at end of turn. Okay, so we've got our hero power. I'm going to hold on a coin because we're looking at 10 damage out of hand here. It's pretty absurd. This is the kind of draw that I can, you know, get behind. You have this any amount of times. Oof. Meh. I don't want the extra click. Ah, there's not another one in the deck. This is a card that I'm sure a lot of people probably wonder, you know, why there's not more in the deck. I want to point out that number, that 1 toughness. It's called cheap shot toughness. Don't want that happening. But I definitely think there could be another deck, you know, in the metagame that does, I don't want to say the same thing, but something similar enough. All right, so... Yep, that should be game. Unless our opponent has... If our opponent has... I guess, like, if they had the cheap shot, they would have had it before. So, if they block here, we sack over to here. 7. No, this is 4, go to 9. Yeah, I mean, we still sacrifice this. No, we don't. No, we just let that happen. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we can go to damage. This will put him to 9, and then we'll kill him with the selection of winners in our hand. Cycle. Could just do the whole gambit, but we'll hit him with that one, and then we'll hit him with this one, and that is the match. So our opponent seemed to be on a, you know, a little bit slower mono blood deck. Definitely a common strategy, you know, maybe not with the Renner champion, but you just showed the power of the Ruby and Blood aggressive strategy. We didn't get too fancy with any of, you know, like the massive, you know, Webborn, make 30 Dreadlings, just a couple damage each turn, and after boards, cut those cremates, and we just get to roll through with our friend Gravengeist. So this was Kent Ketter with a Battleshopper breakdown. Round 2. Come back for rounds 3 and 4. Hope to see you there.